am King Ezekiel. Welcome to the kingdom.
Well, you know, Rick is putting his army together. Every single person that he sees, that's a soldier. It's not just about guns, it's about people. And we got a lot of different groups of people. So I sort of like the moment we're in right now where he's kind of amassing his army. It's really, sometimes that's more thrilling than the war, you know?
Yeah, I doubt it. I mean,
what would you like to do?
I like Jeffrey Dean Morgan, he's cuddly. But I do want Negan in some shape or form to pay for what he's done.
In pieces.
Yeah. I think there's a line of people queuing up around the block to kill Negan. And hopefully they're all going to join me in making that happen. I mean, I get lots of people stopping me on the street from 18 years old to 88 at the moment, just going, could you deal with Negan, please? So I'll do my best.
You want to do it?
I want to do it, yeah. Are you kidding me? I don't know. You want to do it?
You know what? Fine, you'll do a cameo.
Yeah,
come on
we'll
set.
pay for the ticket. I think that was very much the story that we're trying to tell. You know, are you fighting the monsters in front of you or inside of you? You know, and I think what happens to a man who is the living embodiment of law and order over time, because of this terrible, violent, terrifying place, he gets changed. He gets changed by his environment. And I think that it's about, you know, the morals from before the zombies don't really have a place as much as they do now in this current environment. So it's ambiguous. I think the whole, you know, no one is black or white. You know, everybody has had to do things that would appall them if we were still sat with cameras and microphones and all the rest of it. But we're not in that world anymore. And I think that that's what attracts me as an actor to play Rick, is that he's constantly having to stand up and make decisions that he doesn't want to have to make. And that's probably what makes him a good leader, is that he's willing to put his neck on the line first. Sometimes he fails, many times he fails. Many times he does terrible things, but he does it and he takes it and he takes responsibility for it, which makes him, I think, you know, a hero. You know, a hero is a man who does what he can. I think that that's one of the great, I love working with Denai. Denai is a wonderful actress, a very, very talented, smart and funny, you know, young lady. And the chemistry between us is wonderful. But also playing with these two warriors and pulling out this softer, kinder, funnier side out of each other is wonderful. And it's a breath of fresh air that I think, if it were too intense all the time, it would be too much. And I think that we have to find that balance. What are we fighting for,
Right.
if not that? Romance and love and all the good stuff.
Well, you know, even last week's episode was important for us to see them as a couple. They were playful together. You know, the scene when they're having their little candlelight dinner, our little 16 candles sequence. And to me, it's, you have to imagine what any couple would be like. You know, if they're the only difference is, instead of vacationing at the beach, they're raiding and scavenging. But it's important to see them as human beings, because they are warriors, and we need to understand that in order for society to continue, these relationships have to be cultivated. And I loved the humor and I loved the chemistry between them in last week's episode. I thought it was the best that we had seen in the show so far.
I think
he wants a puppy.
He does.
He wants a puppy.
I was going to say, I think Daryl and Rick have their episode in about four seasons time.
Yeah. Well, Scott and I are very committed to keeping the show fresh, to make sure that we haven't repeated ourselves, that we take into account the time that has passed, and to allow some unique opportunities to create different kinds of walkers. The walker in the garbage dump was something that Scott and I had talked quite a bit about, because we like the idea of weaponizing walkers. You know, the idea that Eugene comes up with, oh, just pour molten metal on their heads, and now all of a sudden they're a little more indestructible. Just little touches like that, because the walkers have to be intrinsic to the story. We don't stop the show to do an elaborate special effect and then start the story up again. Everything is intrinsic in there, which makes it more realistic. So for me, we get a chance over and over again as artists to refine our art and to come up with crazier and crazier things. The 2 cars on the freeway with the cable that chops the entire zombie herd in half. That was just something that I came up with, that I thought, this is something we've never done before. It's something spectacular. It's something fun. It's a little outrageous, but you know what? We hadn't really seen a lot of Walker stuff in the first half of the season. So to sort of reintroduce, to remind the audience, by the way, there's a lot of zombies out there. We might not want to forget about them. So we put that sequence in specifically just to continue to sort of allude to that threat. But it's great fun to just come up with stuff over and over again. I saw the deer. There wasn't a deer when we shot. And then they put one in later.
We probably spent too much money on the real tiger. That's where the budget went.
I would say Merle, honestly. I mean, Merle, because I think Michael Rooker was fantastic. And it's nothing against Jeffrey, nothing against Negan at all, because I think Jeffrey's absolutely fantastic. But if you go back and you look at, I think the first sequence on the roof in season 1 with Michael and Andy just set the tone for the show. I mean, those first 6 episodes, a lot of people ask, what's your favorite episode? I always go to episode 1 because it launched the show. And I thought Michael's performance was honest and raw and real, and really allowed us to get a glimpse of that kind of thinking and understanding that as the show progressed, like Andy was saying, that kind of thinking went away. Racism and any sort of of that kind of stuff all disappeared.
One of the great lines about when Merle is with T-Dog and he's beating up T-Dog, who's the black character, and I think one of my favorite lines that Frank wrote is that there are no niggers anymore, no poor white trash fools either, just dark meat and white meat. There's us and the dead. We survive this by pulling together, not apart, which is such incredible writing. And it sort of encapsulates absolutely what the landscape is and how it's changed. And it was so eloquent and poetic,
So,
Merle for me.
I think, I would say, only because Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer is one of my favorite movies. And I remember my brother, he knew about the comics before I did. And he said, and he for some reason found out that that Merle was going to be played by Mike Rooker. And he said, it's Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer that you're going to, he said, you better up your game, my friend. And it was such a thrill to be able to work with Mike, because he is one of those rare actors that has this wildness and unpredictability that, you can't fake. You can't fake. It's, but then, John Bernthal, if
Is he a bad guy?
He's not a bad guy.
See, I never saw Shane as a bad guy.
No, I know. Although, he was trying to plot to have me killed.
He was, but only because you weren't doing what it took.
I wasn't stepping up.
Now you are. But back then, if you think about season 1, you weren't willing to do it. He was.
I just wanted to mention John Bernthal because he's freaking
I don't
awesome
think,
actor.
I never see Shane. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't see Shane as a bad guy.
Well, he was trying
Even though he
slept with my wife.
Slept with your wife. Yeah.
I will be reprising my stalker. It's my Walker Stalker moment. It is Please tune in. It's March the 24th. It's called Red Nose Day, actually, and I will be playing Mark. I will be holding signs at somebody's doorstep. So yes.
You should know, there is no door number 4. This is the only way.